So my question to everyone is, who are the voices you're not listening to because you've got a professional dogma that you're following, or you've got an organisational culture, or quite possibly a cult that goes in a particular direction? We need to listen with a full 360-degree perspective. And why it matters now more than ever is we're more connected now more than ever. So listening matters so much more now.
Tell me about your work with an organisation of engineers.
3 years ago, I was brought in to work with about 80 leaders inside the organisation. I was asked to give a talk on deep listening. And I stepped into the room, and by the 20-minute mark, you could feel the tension. It was literally dripping from the air conditioning ducts. You could feel it like a fog moving across the room. And it didn't matter what we were trying to do in terms of helping the group, there was a tension. And at the 20-minute mark, I trusted my instinct. I listened to my gut. I turned to the CEO of this big manufacturing organisation. They employed about 500 people on this particular site. And I said, look, with your permission, I'm going to try something different. And with contempt dripping from every syllable, he said, well, if you must. And I went, I prefer to do it with your consent. He says, go ahead. So I turned to the room and I said simply, what movie's going on right now at this manufacturing facility? And the room exploded. It was like popcorn popping in a stove, and everybody was laughing and the tension was released in the room. But the CEO walked up to me on this small little stage, switched my lapel mic off and said, what the hell are you doing? This wasn't in brief. I said, can't you feel what's going on here? He says, I have no idea what you're talking about, but you got 20 minutes, sort it out. And he sat back down. And I turned to the room and I said, okay, so what movies is everybody talking about? First movie, Die Hard with a Vengeance. Next movie, Towering Inferno. Next movie, Titanic. Every plane crash movie and disaster movie you could think of was being said. Out of the corner of my eye, my peripheral vision, I could see the CEO stepping up onto stage, and all I could think is, well, guess I'm not getting paid for this one. And he gestured for me to sit down in the chair, and he did something that completely changed my perspective. He took my mic off me. He turned to the room. It was a semi-bow, as in he was bowing forward when he said it. He said, I'm really sorry. He said, I'm sorry you feel working for me is a disaster. Oscar's heard something I haven't heard on this issue. I think we all need to spend a bit more time listening to him. And with that, he handed the mic back to me and gave me as much time as I wanted. And I simply said to the room, who aren't we listening to on this issue? Now, Lisa, I had no idea what this issue was. What it was to learn later was there was a quality issue with something in the production line that was holding up stock, nearly $10 million worth of stock. And the people they weren't listening to were production line workers, frontline workers. And in fact, this was a room full of fancy pants engineers with PhDs and masters. They couldn't figure out this problem. But a 35-year-old frontline worker had told them about the problem 3 months ago, but he was ignored. And that's why listening matters in the workplace. In a lot of workplaces, we don't listen in a one-on-one setting, nor do we listen in team settings, nor do we listen in production, customer care, and the cost of that is huge.
And there were some really interesting points you hit on there. And one of them was this sense of feeling. So you felt this fog. So what is it about listening that focuses on the unsaid?
If you understand the neuroscience of listening, you'll understand why listening for what's not said is so important. I speak at 125 words a minute. Most people speak at 150, and a cattle auctioneer or a real estate auctioneer will speak at about 200 words per minute, but you'll still have comprehension. Now, we think on average at 900 words per minute. So the likelihood the first thing that we say is what we actually mean, there's an 11% chance that what we say is what we mean. So what we're saying is, in business, if you just listen to the first thing somebody says, there's a 90% chance you're not listening to what they actually mean. And whether it's a project meeting that runs over schedule, whether it's a customer brief you didn't take correctly, whether it's an employee who decides to leave and join another organisation because you didn't listen to what they really wanted to say. That's why listening to what's unsaid is so critical. And the 125-900 rule helps leaders to unlock why just to double your listening productivity, you just need to ask 3 simple questions. They are, tell me more, what else? And this phrase, this is the most critical phrase of all, and it's the least used. So lean in and listen to this one. That's it, it's silence. And Lisa, in the East, in Aboriginal cultures, in the Inuit of North America, in tribal communities, silence is a sign of respect, it's a sign of authority, and it's a sign of wisdom. But in the West, we think the minute somebody draws a breath, that's our commercial break to jump in and tell them exactly what we think.
And is this why you call it deep listening as opposed to something like active listening, which was pretty popular in the 90s?
Yeah, active listening is still popular now, and it's a great foundation. Active listening helps you understand the first 3 levels of listening. There's 5 levels of listening. But listening to what's unsaid is what deep listening is about. Listening beyond the words and listening in colour rather than listening in black and white.